May 25th, 2023 is when I started the Via Alpina Red Trail across the entirety of the Alps. And I learned quite a bit about what I should have brought and what I shouldn't have brought. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about that, guys. What was in my backpack? What did I carry in those 2,200 kilometers across the Alps? I like to tell you that I camped most of the time, and so this is from a camping standpoint and a standpoint in order to try to save money. So we'll start with the backpack. Here we have a light AF curve, suspension curve, which means it has a framed backpack. I really like this backpack. Most importantly, I liked it because of these amazing straps. The way the shape is, they fit my body, or the contour of my body, a lot better than most other backpacks, and because of that, it is very comfortable. The next part of my backpack that I'd like to talk about is my tent. Looks like a plastic bag right here, but inside of this plastic bag is 6 Moon Design Lunar Solo ultralight one-person tent. This is a frameless tent, which means it uses the support of a trekking pole. So I had to carry a trekking pole because of this. And I really like the trekking pole. The trekking pole was key to my hike. We'll talk about that here in a second. As far as this tent, I am not a fan of single wall tents, and there's a lot of moisture in Europe, and I wish that I would have brought a double wall tent, if anything. Realistically, I didn't sleep in the tent often. I could probably count on both hands how many times I spent nights in the tent. Most of the time was spent cowboy camping underneath the stars. Trekking pole, man, what a key piece of gear for my hike when I hiked it. Not only was it a part of my tent, it was a very important piece of hiking gear. The trails in Europe are a little bit less groomed than the United States, and because of that, having an extra point of contact was crucial. And in some instincts, I used it as kind of an ice axe to get myself down from some pretty hairy situations, because there was quite a bit of snow on the year that I did that. The trekking pole broke because I was hiking, I slipped, I fell, landed on it. It was a carbon fiber trekking pole, and it just snapped. It snapped right in half, which was a scary moment because that was a structural integrity for my tent. It was a vital piece of gear for me. I had to go to a ski resort and I had to get a skiing pole. So I had a fixed trekking pole, which was like 135 centimeters long for the remainder of the hike, which is 135 is big, but that's what I needed for my tent. So I couldn't, it wasn't telescopic. It became an annoying thing. Something I didn't carry, but I wish I carried just because of how light it is, was just a polycrepo ground sheet. This is a ground sheet because I cowboy camp so much. You just throw it underneath your stuff. It keeps your stuff a little bit drier. It gives you an extra moisture barrier between you and the ground. My sleeping bag was wet all the time because of how I chose to sleep. And if I would have had that, things would have been a little bit more comfortable. Here we have my tent stakes. These are just the MSR mini groundhogs for my lunar solo tent. So the next item in my big 3 is my sleeping bag, actually sleeping quilt. This is the Enlighten Equipment Enigma, and this is a 20-degree bag. The difference between a quilt and a sleeping bag is that the quilt removes the bottom part of the sleeping bag, which because of that, it weighs less. I brought this because it was lighter than my other bag. I wish that I didn't bring this, and instead I would have brought something less warm. I think a 0 or a 32 bag would be more than sufficient. I also had a sleeping bag liner, which I'll put on the screen now. The sleeping bag liner was great because in nights that it was very warm, because it's very humid in the Alps, I slept in the sleeping bag liner and then slept on top of this. So this would be an extra cushion underneath my sleeping pad. And there was only a few nights that I really was happy that I had this. In fact, I think there was only one night that was close to freezing, and that was in Triglav, or near to Triglav, in the Slovenian section of the trail. The sleeping bag liner was also an important piece of gear because if you did want to stay in any of the huts or anything along the way, you need to have some type of thing that separates you from the sheets. The lightest thing that you can carry that fits that description is a silk sleeping bag liner. Sleeping pad. It's just a Thermarest Z-Lite. It's a full length. I don't like inflatables, so this is what I carry. I also have a small sectional underneath my butt, which is a butt pad because I'm a side sleeper. I like to put this as an extra layer underneath my hips, so when I'm sleeping on the side I don't have sore hip. In addition to that, I have my pillow, which is a blow-up inflatable pillow. This is the Eros Premium pillow. I've had it forever. It's comfortable, it still works. This is my luxury item. Let's talk food system. So I carried this here, I think it's a Dyneema Z-Packs bag. This just was kind of what I put all of my food in. And then my utensils, this is my spork, just a little titanium light my fire spork. Got the fork, knife, spoon combo. Had it forever, big fan of it. We'll use it until it doesn't work anymore. This is my 1100 milliliter Tokes pot and pan. I like it because it's a combo. So, you know, if I get into town and I want to just cook my own food, whether it be steaks and eggs or something like that, I can cook in here. And then I have my pot standard. It's a little bit bigger than most hikers prefer, but like I said, I am not most hikers, and I use it to cook more than just backpacking food. This is my little mug that I made that just allows me to conserve gas. Once I get the water up to a boiling temperature, I shut off the gas and then I kind of incubate it in there, and that makes my gas last longer. This used to be the world's smallest / lightest stove. This is a BRS 3000. I think it's sub 20. Things have gone up, so maybe it's a little bit more, but sub 20 US dollars. It's very light. It weighs 28 grams, so right around 1 ounce. It's no pocket rocket or MSR, but for the price to weight ratio, I will carry this forever. So that's my cook system there. Very simple, very basic, but it works. And then all this stuff gets wrapped up right into this little Tokes container so that it's all in one spot. Makes it very easy and convenient. So we'll talk about some specialty gear that I carried. Because of the time of the year that I was there, I carried a poncho, and this is a poncho right here that kind of goes over your backpack and you. I'm glad that I had something to keep me dry because it was very wet all the time. But I don't know if I like this, and I don't know if I would recommend this to somebody else. So it has a zipper in the front, and that was the Achilles heel. That was the weak point of that piece of gear, and water would come down into that, and then my shirt would get wet, and then it just gradually make its way down to the rest of my body, and everything would be wet. But it did keep my gear, my backpack and stuff dry, so in that sense it was useful. I would recommend rain gear for sure. I just wouldn't recommend this, so I wouldn't bring this next time. Maybe just a basic frog togs or something like that. Keeping in fashion to rain, these are waterproof gloves. I got these at REI. I'm glad that I had these. It was cold and it was wet, and it was great to have something waterproof to keep my hands dry when everything else was in fact wet on that trip. Another really piece of important gear that I carried were the micro spikes. Because I started in May in the Julian Alps, around Triglav and in Slovenia and even parts of Italy and Austria, we encountered a lot of snow. There was only a few times in the early part of the trail that these were required because of ice. There was a lot of snow, but I don't think that these do a lot of good in snow. These do better with ice and slippery situations. So I was glad to have these around Triglav for sure. But I would say if you're starting later than May 25th, say early June or mid-June, I don't think that these will be warranted, and you know, they're not light, so that could save you some unneeded weight. So let's talk water. So in Europe, there is water everywhere. When you pass through towns, there's little water fountains. Anytime you went through pastures with livestock, there was water. The exception to this is Slovenia. Slovenia was hard to find water. In fact, I think it was the only place that everybody in my party had to buy water, which was like €6 for 1.5 liters. Because of Slovenia being very porous in limestone, all the water seeps through, and there's a bunch of caves and underground rivers that go underneath Slovenia, so the water just goes there. So I carried a 3-liter capacity. I think at one point in time I carried a 4-liter capacity, but I never needed any more than that. Filter, you know, probably not needed, but I always like having my filter. It's not that much extra in weight. There was tons of places where you get to them and says the water is not drinkable. I've drank some pretty bad water, so you know, having a filter in that situation is probably worth itself in weight. But you know, one of my friends carried no filter at all. So to each their own. I would say that you probably don't need it. You could probably just get away with some little aquamarine tabs or something like that. This was just kind of toiletries. That's my poo shovel, hand sanitizer, you know, toothbrush, stuff like that. I didn't carry really anything other than soap. Whenever I got the chance, I would wash my clothes. In Europe, there, like I said, was always water, and so I had an opportunity to wash my clothes frequently, and so I used that. I don't think I paid for laundry the entire time that I was in Europe, so having a little bar of soap to do some cleaning was useful to me. I had a power bank as well. This was my power bank. It was a 20,000 milliamp power bank, and I really like this thing. And it's Inu. I dropped this off of a pass, and it stumbled and rumbled and bumbled, and eventually it stopped at the bottom, and it still works. So I'm a fan of this because I do social media recordings and document stuff along the way. Digital creator. I needed to have more power than your average Joe. You could easily get by with 10,000 milliamps. Here we have a headlamp. It's just a battery powered headlamp. It's nothing crazy, ultralight. It's what I've had for a long time, and it still works, so I still carry it. This was good to have. You know, you could probably get away with not carrying something like this and going maybe just using your phone, but I use my phone for a lot of navigation, so I was glad to have this for when I needed my phone power for something else. Additionally, I carried a buff. Not this buff. I actually got this when I climbed Mont Blanc on that hike, but I really enjoyed having a buff. It was crucial to keep me warm in the morning times. You know, you would kind of go through a big variation of temperatures, so it was nice having something that I could put over my head or around my neck or both in like a balaclava type of thing. So big fan of the buff. I would recommend bringing it for as little that it weighs. Best piece of gear that I have, gram for gram. So let's talk clothes. What clothes did I wear along the trail? Well, I'm actually wearing them right now. So for my warm layer gear, I had a puffy coat. This is a Four Claws, which is a cheap European puffy jacket. It's not super light, but it's not super heavy. This was my warm gear. I was wearing a Columbia Omni Shade shirt. It's sun protectant. It's long sleeve. It is light, so it dries easily. Then on the bottoms, I was wearing Columbia Omni Shade convertible pants. So they zip off into shorts, which made things really nice. If it got hot, I could just drop into shorts, or if it got cold, I could put on pants. I wore sandals for the hike. Not everybody's footwear of choice, but it is my footwear of choice. I don't really have any regrets in that decision. For extra clothes, I had one extra shirt, and this was it. It was just an extra shirt to have for laundry or for sleeping in, or when my shirt fell apart. This was my final shirt. And then I had one extra pair of boxers. These are just Affixio boxers. They say you only need one, okay, maybe two, because they don't hold the stench. But I enjoy these. They work well for me. They're not cheap, but they do work well. I did wear these sunglasses. I regret not having better sunglasses. I wish that I had something with a higher UV protection, because in a lot of the snow sections, I got burnt on my eyes, and it wasn't good. It wasn't healthy. So I wish I had better sunglasses that had side protection or underneath protection. That would have boded well. That was mainly due to the early start that I had. Had I started later, there wouldn't have been much snow, and that wouldn't be really an issue. Total weight. What are we talking in total weight? So everything that you see that I was carrying that we just talked about was 13.7 pounds, or roughly 7 kilo. And of course I would have water, food, and camping gas for cooking. This is just dry weight. If you stuck around this far in the video, I greatly appreciate it. If you haven't had a chance, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Please do. This is the moment to do so. I got some hikes coming up in the near future, going back to Europe and a few other places overseas. So if you're interested in seeing those treks and what they entail, hit that notification button, guys, and we'll see you on the next adventure. This is Cav saying, keep calm and hike on, guys. Peace.